This is Gynesis Radio, and I'm proud to announce the brothership is back. We took a hiatus with everything going on at the beginning of the summer, if I remember correctly, but we are back and we are glad to have you um, in our midst. I've got a good show planned with good guests because as we coagulate the brothership lineup, we wanted to get out there and have a good discussion because they're topics that are pertinent that I think will add some value. So first, let me go around the horn and introduce my friend, I'll say mentor. We're close in age, but mentors don't have to be so much older. Mm-hmm. Professor Vincent Rice, a FAMU alumnus. And then we've got another special guest, a co-founder of Gynesis Radio and another Florida A&M alumni, Terry Pickering. TP Square, we call
That's
it.
right. Thanks for having me, man. I'm proud to be here with you guys today.
So, this is good because I met obviously Vince many years ago, and he's from New Jersey. Terry's from New York. So there was always this common theme for Florida A&M rattlers that were students. If you came from the North, you had to at least get together because, I'll throw that secret out there. HBCUs to a degree are a little bit cliquish. That was at least my experience. You've got the North versus the South. You've got Greek versus non-Greek. Hell, you've got class. Rich versus, dare I say middle class. But that North-South, I'll say, thing was really big. When you first got on the yard, you tended to gravitate toward, it was New York and New Jersey.
That's right.
It was Chicago and Detroit.
That's right.
It was D.C. and maybe even Virginia, the folks there. And then you had the bottom, which was Florida.
That's right.
Everybody else kind of was from different areas, but those were the big. Philly, they could either go D.C. or Jersey, depending, because one of my very good friends, me and him are lifelong friends. But that's just a little, I'll say, trivia for the folks that didn't live that HBCU experience. But that's how it was then. But anyway, 30 plus years. We still remain friends. We're active. A lot of folks are involved in the alumni and really looking, I'll say, with a lot of pride and joy with the step change in quality of the HBCU construct. So I wanted to throw that out there first and then wanted to kind of morph into the theme of what we're going to talk about for the next hour, which is the midterm implications. Now, I know that politics for some can be a little bit boring. Some people think it's a little played out. I'm a political junkie. So when we put the show together, I said, guys, we have to at least talk about the midterm implications because I think they do matter. In the past, we've had elections where, people figured that the outcome would be A, B, or C. There was a level of apathy, particularly around voting blocks with people of color, and folks didn't come out. But I think that with the issues, the proliferation of issues, I'd like to say, that we've seen over the past 5 to 6 years was a call to action for all voting blocks. So before I get into the question, I just wanted to go through a little facts because right now where we are with the midterms, the House is made up of 213 Democrats and 220 Republicans. That means that in the next session, Republicans will be in control of the House. Now, in the Senate, 50 Democrats currently are in control versus 49 Republicans. Now, I'm sure we will get in this conversation, but as everyone knows, December 6th, Tuesday, is a big runoff election between Reverend Raphael Warnock and former athlete Herschel Walker. And that is so rich and has so many layers. I think we would be remiss if we didn't kind of talk about why that matchup even is upon us. And then we need to just, I think, talk about, is democracy truly on the line? So there's a lot to unpack. So I'll go around the horn with you, Vince, first, because before you, I think you were last before, I can't remember, but this time I'm going to give you the grace.
Okay.
What are your thoughts on the midterm implications? And I'll throw it out here with kind of your response. Did they matter? Do they matter? And what do you see as far as the actual results and what's going to happen coming into 2024?
Well, they matter in terms of ease of use of the system, right? So if you have the numbers in the system, you have ease of use. So whichever party or whichever faction is in control, if they have numbers, it'll be easier for them to do the things that they want to do, or it'll be harder for their opponents to do the things that they want to do. And that's primarily what it means. Now, if you look at the two parties, the conservative party has less people has less of a the conservative party is more focused because they have less separate factions to please. The liberal party is in trouble because they have to please everyone. So that creates a problem in terms of the conservative party getting their group in and them having the power. They did it right, but this election and the elections before it are a result of the conservative party doing what they were supposed to do at the local level. And so what Tip O'Neill said, all politics is local. And what we're seeing here on the national and federal level are the results of all of these state and local elections and how they've played out. So if you look at the number of states that have Republican governors, the number of states that have Republican legislatures, that's important because they drew the districting that has the voting coming out the way that it's coming out today. They had a concerted strategy for control. They get credit for that. I give them credit for that. And so what we're seeing today, we tend to look at these things in snapshots, and we shouldn't. What we saw in this election is a result of what we've seen in the elections prior to it, right? And even though the conservative party didn't fare well, they still fared better than what they would have fared had they not set these other things in place at local levels.
Okay. Chair.
Well, I got to say this, the midterm elections were very important, and all elections on the local level are very important, even down to the local school board, because that's where all the seeds are planted to make change, because those politicians, they go from that very small local level and they kind of graduate up the chain in these different parties. And like Vince said, the conservatives had to do what they had to do, and they I believe they planned it out years in advance to make the necessary changes that even if they didn't get the numbers that they needed, they would still be in play in a position to make changes. So at the end of the day, people got to get out and vote, and I say it starts on the very local level to make the changes, because if not, we're doomed to fail. That's just my opinion.
All right. Well, I shared the numbers as far as where we were with the House and Senate. But let's talk about the actual result. I'm getting some feedback. So at the end of the day, the projection in the House was that they would get 45, 60 seats. I mean, that's the talk of this red wave tsunami. But at the end of the day, there's only a 7 representative gap. And then the Senate, they were projected to get 4 seats, but they didn't get it. They actually lost control. I'm bringing that up to say, what do you guys think those results will manifest itself in Republican leadership? Because right now it looks like Donald Trump's still the presumptive leader of that party. And with the first week of the midterm results, no one took accountability for what was a horrific show. So what are your guys' perspective on the future leadership? Is Trump still a shoo-in for 2024, or will someone come up behind him and be a potentially more viable candidate?
I forget who said this, but I heard it on CNN yesterday, and it was the most accurate description of what we currently see in politics today. Right? Donald Trump plays a weak hand well. You understand? And I heard somebody say this yesterday. I was like, that's it. Donald, you could give that guy a losing hand and he win. He could sell you something that you're wearing. That's how he is. You understand what I'm saying? And we discount that because we treat him like he's an idiot. And he's not. And this guy knows you know why? Because he's willing to admit the truth about America that America isn't willing to admit to itself. And so he's able to play America against itself, knowing that America doesn't want to admit the truth. So he's able to play that hand so well. America doesn't want to admit that we're not about each other. We're not patriotic. We're individualistic. You can't be the individuals that we are and say you're patriotic. And Trump knows that. And he knows which party has to please, has the fewest issues to run. Okay, it's easier to be a conservative than it is to be a liberal. There's less issues to have to embrace. And there's a larger base of people willing to embrace those few issues. And I mean, we look at the control of the Senate. It boils down to this. It boils down to there are people that support the way that the country is currently being run, and whatever they have to do to keep it like it is or to keep it from losing what they have, they will vote for it, regardless to party. If they think the Liberal Party is going to give them what they want, they're going to vote for that. But the Conservative Party has convinced America that the old way is losing control. And if you want to keep control, you have to invest in us. And that's really what it is.
Terry, what say you?
Well, in my opinion, is Donald Trump a genius? Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think everybody took him for granted. But this time around in 2024, I think people are not going to support him the way they did because they have an option. They have Donald Trump 2.0 in DeSantis. He has the same thoughts and feelings and ideas and principles and policies of a Donald Trump without the brash putting your foot in your mouth, and there's going to be no baggage of the these top secret documents and this Mar-a-Lago stuff to explain away, because you are right, Vince. You know, these conservatives, these people, they're going to vote for what they want to vote for because he has convinced people that the powers that be are losing power and the white race is being replaced. He's convinced them that. That's their biggest fear, right? But because of all the baggage that's attached with him, people don't want to be associated with him because in spite of it all, they want to argue it away and say, I'm not a racist, I'm not anti-Semitic, I'm not all these different things. But the thought that he might be charged with espionage is so un-American that I think all those conservatives that was in his corner are running for cover just based upon that day alone. And I don't think he has a path to the White House. But because there's DeSantis, who is Trump 2.0, it's going to be the same sandwich.
Man, this is flowing in a way that I didn't anticipate, but the next question ties directly into this. Last night, Trump pretty much put an aggressive statement out calling for the Constitution to be turned. Were you guys aware of that?
Yes, I heard that. I heard that this morning when I woke up.
I mean, to categorize it, basically, he's still propagating the big lie, but he's saying at this point, all rules should be broken, including the Constitution to reinstall him.
Reinstall him.
And I think that, we've become numb in the news cycle with crazy. But what concerns me most is that in somebody's mother's basement, in some dark corners in the West, people are listening to this like the second call for the insurrection. What do you think, Vince?
I think it needs to get worse before it gets better. I hate to say that. Because I don't think we get it. And all of us, I don't think any of us get it. I don't think we get how bad it really is. And people won't change. The only thing that's going to make people change is carnage, right? It's it. So I've said that before. I'm saying it again. None of us are changing. We're not changing our spending habits. We're not changing, our political habits. We're not changing how we live so that we can all, occupy this space a little better, a little safety. No, man. This is going to play itself out. It has to get worse before people wake up and see what it is. You know what I mean? And unfortunately, some of us are going to be sacrificed in the process. And it's really just that simple. That we're heading for some dark days, and people don't want to come to grips with that. There's some dark days ahead. Where do you want to be when it hits the fan? You know what I'm saying? I mean, like I was telling you before, I didn't send you that I sent you guys that video of that lady talking about countries that are ripe for civil war. Did I send that to you?
No, you have to though.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Oh, she was dropping it. And so this was a CIA analyst, and her job is to go all over the world and look for strife in such a way that civil war is about to happen. And she was on NPR describing that what's going on in the United States right now is exactly what could happen for civil war. And she talked about the only way to keep us from getting there is basically to do what they did in South Africa, and the corporations get involved. And no, we're behind this side because this is the side of right, but it's also the side of profits. If you get on the side of war, you're going to interrupt everything you got going on financially, everything you got going on commercially. You're on the side of peace. Whatever side does this the most peacefully is the side that the corporations are going to be on. And that's going to determine whether or not we go to civil war or not. But you got a faction that feels like they're losing power that's actually in control. So we are ripe for a civil war. We are ripe for it. Like, people don't want to say, I'll send you guys the video. It's awesome. It's really, really, really awesome.
No, I like that. So Terry, give me your perspective, because I want to tie what Vince said to a point.
Well, if you've been following my posts, I'm preparing for the Civil War. Okay? Because you know what? It doesn't take no scholar or no ex-CIA person to tell me that what I can see myself. I've watched my community in itself change over one presidential election, and I'm not talking about the loss. I'm talking about after the win. You know what I mean? I watched my community change, and the ugliest things about people that they held deep inside their heart came out to the surface. You know what I mean? And it just exploded after the loss. So if you are already ready, you'll never have to get ready, because it's the inevitable. And I tell everybody this, be prepared, because fear has been sown throughout America. The replacement theory has got people scared to death. You know what I mean? Critical race theory has tied in with all that, and they tied it into politics. And you gave Donald Trump a bullhorn. Forget the dog whistle. The dog whistle's gone. A bullhorn. And after seeing these people storm, what they did, with this insurrection, why wouldn't there be preparations for a civil war. Why wouldn't we be ripe for a civil war? You know? So like I said, it didn't take nobody to tell me. I didn't have to see nothing, hear nothing from a scholar or CIA agent when I'm living it, and I see it every day. You know what I mean? When I walk down, I see all the code words for I am a Trump supporter. I believe in the big lie, and you know the Constitution should be rewritten. They're looking to wipe out affirmative action and all these other things. Oh, the handwriting's on the wall, you know. And if you can't see that, I don't know what to say.
Well, I'm glad you brought that to the forefront. And I wanted to jump with what Vince was saying, because my theory on this is very similar to at least how the corporations look at it. What I think has happened is that we've got, I'll say, a radicalized base that's so ginned up, they don't understand the implications of it. So, for example, you've got maybe 10% of people, in my estimate, would really go out and do something like rash. Now, what we know with an analysis of January 6th, most of those people that were out there that are being held accountable, they didn't have stable jobs or stable careers or stable lives, because they would have been working or looking at the long-term effect of providing for their families before being out there. You get what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
But as that groundswell occurs, because of the constant rhetoric, because of the constant propagation of losing power, what Vince was saying, I see proliferating. We live in proximity to each other, Terry. So I know exactly what you're saying when you say that that attitude's changed in the time interval of 4 to 5 years. We see trucks go down the main roads with, I'll say, incendiary rhetoric at best. Yes. Because, you know, we'll see an effigy of someone urinating on a Biden poster, or Black Lives Don't Matter, or so and so and so. So we are actually living that reality. And those of us that are smart are looking at alternatives. You know, I know that in our community, some of our neighbors, we've begun to kind of create just, I'll say, a communication loop. Hey, man, you know, are you okay? Are you okay? And that's not, I'll say, reactionary. It's just being pragmatic, you know? Yeah. So I think, like you said, at some point, before we had as individuals, if we look at it through a historical lens, the ability to resource our own monies to, I'll say, economically deprive businesses or entities or political movements that propagated radicalism. But we're beyond that now, because dark money that funds a lot of the political machines. We've somehow, and it's not brought up enough, we've blurred the lines between the delineation between church and state. I'd argue that one of the reasons that Donald Trump was so successful was because he was able to infiltrate the Christian evangelical belief system. Somehow the message was sold where that he could actually had a seat at the table with the Christ. Because my study and practical experience with Christianity was, you know, a little bit different than his version and what's been accepted by that particular sect. And, you know, I think we're saying it is politically correct and nicely, but we've got to keep our head on the swivel, because while the results of the midterm have shown there's still like a resistance to total radicalism, we still have to be cognizant and vigilant in future elections, because I think people tend to forget we've got 2024 coming up. And that's why I wanted to have this as a I'll say at least a forum, because a lot of us, all of us, when I say us, tend to rest on our laurels. Oh, the midterms are over, it's okay. No, you know, to Vince's point, we've got dark days ahead, and one election cycle does not change what a movement has been put in place that you've said, Terry, that has been years in the making. You know, right. We have to give credit to where credit is due. The devil is good at his objective, which is corrupting the minds and souls of relatively good people. So with that said, we can't discount the fact that there's been a plan in place for diminishing demographic to maintain control.
Well, let me say this much about that, and it's, Donald Trump has delivered to his constituents, and so where he may not have originally had evangelical support, he delivered some Supreme Court justices to them, and that by itself is enough.
And abortion.
But that's what I'm saying. He delivered that to the evangelicals. That was like their most important political prize. And he gave it. Look, he's no different than Giuliani. You guys can say what you want to say about these two politicians, but they both came in and they delivered to their constituents. And you have to give some credit for people who are, you want to know why 80 million people support this guy? He delivered for 80 million people. And so don't get it twisted. See, we still trying to fool ourselves into believing, A, what's delivering for them, what it is that you have to do to deliver. And we also want to dismiss the racial aspect of the whole thing. Like, there's no way to dispute. Some people feel comfortable with him in charge racially. They feel more comfortable. They feel like Biden's going to give it away to people of color. That's what they feel like. They feel like, no, at least we got it. I don't necessarily want to own it, but I sure don't want to be treated like the rest of them get treated. That's really what it's about.
Yeah. I like the Chris Rock script when he said, somewhere in America there's a one-legged bus boy that's white that's like, I'm going to ride this thing out. And I think you just articulated it in that way. But I think the reason we're having that conversation for the audience is to say, look, this still is something that we need to be cognizant of, and we still need to come out and vote, and we still need to work on each other. Now, it's not a coincidence that the three people that are hosts of this show and guest hosting and talking are FAMU alumni. I'm glad that we did that. And I do want to touch on that on the back end, because I think that in our own way, I know when we talk privately, we're still trying to pay it forward with peers, but more importantly for the youth. But let me ask you this, since we're still on the midterms and this control, what's your perspective with this matchup between Warnock and Herschel Walker? How did we get here? Because when you do a contrast between the two candidates, I mean, one guy's had a bachelor's, a master's, and a PhD in divinity. I mean, basically inherited the mantle from Martin Luther King's church, versus an ex-athlete who was a god in that sphere, but now is actually within a statistical tie. I understand the math, but let's just kind of make it a little granular. How did we get a Walker Warnock candidacy, Vince?
Well, it goes back to my previous statement. First of all, it plays well on television. Contrast always plays well. If you can contrast one thing as opposed to another, one person over another, contrast plays well, because then you get the yin and the yang, and you can play that out through the whole story. Let's start there. Then you're going to go to the fact that, Walker is a celebrity and Warnock is the incumbent. So they both have some name recognition. It seems that Walker has more name recognition than Warnock has to some degree. And so you have that as well. And people play up the fact, that they think Walker isn't a very well-polished speaker and all the rest of this stuff. Like that ever mattered. You know what I'm saying? That didn't matter before. It doesn't matter. It's just now that we're not lying about it. That's all. You know what I mean? It's always been a beauty contest. It's no different today. And so this whole thing is, and it's not about, and we have no confidence that Herschel Walker is going to be making any of the decisions necessary to execute his position if he wins. We are under no illusion that unless, God help us all, if he gets in there and he tells his backers that, oh no, you guys aren't going to tell me what to do. I'm going to do what I want to do. Now, that would be lovely, and I would truly enjoy that and be entertained by that. But I don't have a hope that that's going to be the case. We all think that Walker is going to get in, and somebody else is going to be telling him exactly what to do. And that's really what everybody who's voting for him is voting for. They're voting for his backers. They're not voting for him.
Well, I just want to say this here. You know, we often heard people talk about Trump supporters being uneducated white males and uneducated white folks, right? Well, it's happening to us right now with this runoff, because we all loved Herschel Walker at one point when he was the Heisman Trophy winner, right?
Yeah.
We loved him. We held him in high esteem, right? And he became a celebrity to us, name recognition, right? Now, Warnock is more polished as an individual because of, like Darren said, he has taken the Martin Luther King playbook and ran with it to the point where he even runs his church, right? So what's plaguing us now, why this thing is neck to neck, is because Walker was a celebrity and a hero to us. Because, you know, to be a black man and win the Heisman Trophy was huge. You know what I mean? So who black in America didn't know who Herschel Walker was? Now you take uneducated black people who are not doing the research, you know, who don't realize the man clearly said he lives in Texas. Everybody say he lives in Texas. Donald Trump put him in play, and even the daggone re-elected governor distanced himself from the whole situation because he didn't want it to plague his campaign, right? But unfortunately, the uneducated black folks who only want to vote for president anyway has made this thing a runoff and a neck-to-neck tie. Just like Donald Trump became the candidate, name recognition, and people voted for him because he was a celebrity. It's the same thing happening with Warnock and Walker. That's my opinion.
Okay. I wanted to give a shout out to OG and Evelyn because I can't type directly to them and saw something come through. So I just wanted to say hello to you guys. But I think you bring a good point. I mean, we'll know the results on Tuesday, and I'm going to put a shameless plug in for anyone that has the appetite to phone bank, because to me, we still have a chance to deliver. So if you guys or anyone that's listening have free time, you can always go to fairfight.com and do a little phone banking. Every little bit counts because, you know, before elections, while they're pretty much local and state, again, with the influence of dark money and just national implications of this, any help that you could give to help the cause would be good. I've done it. It's can be thankless, but it is effective. People don't, I think, realize the effectiveness of phone banking, because if you catch somebody at the right time, they're more inclined, if they haven't voted, to potentially go out. I mean, you know, you think about just the cycle. They always will bring out, at least in previous years, Obama. You know why? Because of the popularity factor. I mean, Michelle Obama and Barack Obama have actually, they've got quantifiable results of the impact of them coming there. It's the same with phone banking. Obviously, with that star power, it's a little great. But, you know, I'm a big advocate of action. You know, we're talking and, you know, chopping up the issues. But to be very frank and transparent, it's the action that matters. So, again, if you have time, you know, put it in there, because I want to even talk about some of the other implications, because if we do get that 51-49 advantage in the Senate, it's going to be harder for a Joe Manchin or a Kirsten Sinema to, you know, disrupt things. And for me, because I tend to be issue oriented, you know, my expectation is that a Voting Rights Act is actually acted upon. You know, my expectation is that a police brutality law is actually advanced. Now, what was interesting was that, you know, an African American on the other side of the aisle, Tim Scott, he was very vocal in saying, no, we're not going to talk about that because qualified immunity, i.e. accountability, has to be kept in the bill. So, that's the type of thing when we talk about implications around the issues. This is very easy for me because from what I understand and what I know as I research it, our friends on the other side of the aisle don't actually have a platform. Right now, the platform they have is one of grievance and one of revenge. So it'll be interesting to see what's going to happen on the House side. And I wanted to open it up to you guys. Do you think that the House of Representatives is going to be very effective with the toxic mix that they currently have? How do you see this playing out? Do you think anything will get done, or from your personal opinion, it's just going to be a show? Vince?
Well, the Democrats repeatedly get played in this sphere. And they will play ball with the Republicans to their chagrin. They will play ball with them, and Republicans will get some stuff done with the help of the Democratic colleagues. And Democrats believe that the people are going to see them as doing the right thing and side with them. And no, they're going to see the Republicans as getting it done and the Democrats not being able to get it done prior to that. And that's how that's going to play out. That's how it always does play out. I'm starting to think of the Democratic Party as a party of suckers because Lucy keeps holding the damn football and they keep running up to kick it, and Lucy keeps pulling the damn football out of there, and they kick it every single time.
That's right.
I don't see this is happening any different than anything else that's been happening.
Terry, what do you say?
Man, Vince, you just knocked the ball. You just knocked it out the park, man. I can't even come back with anything other than saying exactly. I concur with you, and I was going to say the same thing, that the Democrats are going to get played, and the American public is going to say that the Democrats couldn't get it done and the Republicans did, when the Republicans are going to try to play ball and cross the aisle and do what should be perceived as the right thing to unify the country. It's not going to happen.
Okay,
so Vince, you said it all, man.
So let me ask this. I have to, just at least challenge it through the lens of we've got new leadership. Your homeboy Hakeem Jeffries now is in the lead, and there's been 2 other changes. I think Aguilar and the other young lady. Do you think that will have a different lens? From what I've seen from Representative Jeffries, he's very intelligent. He's been very, I'll say, transparent. Do you think that him in the lead versus Pelosi will change how the construct is in this particular session? Because he did call out, we're going to address the extremism. Thoughts?
He's still a black man. Let's not forget that. And I don't think that'll be lost on anyone else either. There is something about us, there's something about a black person, and a black man in particular, who stands up for himself, that kind of makes him a lightning rod. And so it's as effective as you think he can be for whatever makes him effective, that same quality turns certain people off in the other way and motivates them to go against him. So I'm not sure that he's going to have an effect greater than Pelosi. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to say he's going to be worse, but I can't see anything greater than what Pelosi did happening here. Unless we get numbers, this is a numbers game. Once again, we go back to what I told you. The Republican Party understand that it's a numbers game. We don't. We keep thinking that it's the quality of our rhetoric that's going to get us by. No, it's a numbers game. Get enough people on your side and you'll win. You know what I'm saying? If you don't get enough people on your side, you're going to lose. And they have it rigged in such a way that they don't even have enough people on their side because of the gerrymandering and redistricting. The country is majority liberal. But we have a conservative rule base and conservative legislatures and conservative governors. How do we get that? They know what they're doing. We don't. We keep playing by the rules while somebody else keeps playing dirty. And we keep getting our ass kicked by it. And this is labor. You can go down the line. The corporations are winning because they play dirty and they know how and they have enough money to do so. These politicians, they know the same thing. until
like,
I'm just saying until we stop participating in it, but that means we have to make a sacrifice. It's going to keep happening. Go ahead. Sorry.
no, I love it. Terry, what say you?
Well, I like Jeffries, right? I think he's going to be a little less confrontational than Pelosi was. I think that he has the ability to outdumb just a handful of the Republicans in Congress, where he might make an effective change. I really believe so, because sometimes it's not what you say, is how you say it, and sometimes you got to take them on a long walk. Pelosi was ready to do battle with the Republicans every step of the way, whereas Jeffries, he clearly will do battle with them, but I think he will sit at the table and stand his ground. And because of that, that might change a few minds of a few of the Republican congressmen. So I think he has the potential to make effective change, at
I
least
like what
at least to the next election. Congress,
right.
you know.
I like what Vince said, and I just want to highlight it. And Terry, you and I both talked about it as Vince and I have off camera privately, that I just wanted to share with the audience, and I don't want it to be lost, because it's a gem that I think that the listening audience should acknowledge, because we've all had I'll say our time in the sun in the corporate arena and the entrepreneurial arena as well. But the thing that can't be lost is that we're only as effective as the dominant cast is willing to accept our level of strength, if that makes sense. Because you're right, it's not what and how you say it, it's that comfortability level. And I think that's going to be very interesting, an interesting dynamic, if you will, as Jeffrey takes the reins. Because you're right, he can have the quote unquote juice, but again, in that room, if there's that, that arrogance or lack of, I'll say, focus to get the job done, they're going to try to, discount the strength, the relative strength that he brings. Now, I did want to just make a point around just even how this electoral is made up, because when Vince talked about gerrymandering, it's very important to realize that 2024 is really going to come down to a few states electorally: Florida, Virginia, Ohio, Michigan, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, and Arizona. Those are really, when you look at it from, I'll say, the last 8 years, where things are so tight and can shift how presidential elections are made. Now, as I just jotted that down, I was looking at something that will be very interesting, because Florida's pretty much red. DeSantis has painted that sucker red as a ruby. Virginia was once purple, but Youngkin, with the successful application of CRT, while he distanced himself from Trump, he did the slick thing by using another set of, I'll say, archaic but effective tools, which was fear. CRT, we know that doesn't even exist. So that's pretty red. Ohio, JD Vance comes in, venture capitalist, much money, hillbilly elegy office author. He actually won by 8 points. But what's interesting is that Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Arizona still held the line. So it's going to be interesting in 2024. And you know what? North Carolina actually was purple state. And I think that Sherry Beasley, she should have won. But again, I got to go back to Vince's pearls. The Democrats didn't spend enough money in that state. And I believe that was a liability toward her. So, I think we've wrapped up a little bit around the midterm implications. The bottom line is that we still have to be out there. We still have to vote, and we still have to keep our head on the swivel, because I still say that the radical elements that we're dealing with, they haven't gone to sleep. In fact, they're probably going to activate more so than they are going to lay dormant. Now, that's a good pivot into the next 15 minutes or so. I wanted to talk about this topic that's coming out, and it's always been in the background, but we're seeing a proliferation of this. I won't even call it cancel culture, but now anti-Semitism seems to be coming up on the heels of racism. But in my humble opinion, there seems to be, to a large degree, different standards set around it. So if we look at, I'll just throw out three people: Kanye West, Dave Chappelle, and Kyrie Irving. All within a month, there have been issues around these guys being called anti-Semites. And as just people, we've had to, wrestle with that question and go, well, are they? Aren't they? I don't want to necessarily ask the question to you individually, are they anti-Semites? But what's your view on this whole concept? Vince.
Well, first you gotta look at this, right? Dave Chappelle is only included in this in as much that he is the best communicator and deliverer of content we have, right? So what they're really trying to control is not any of his messages on being anti-Semitic. It's all of his messages on our social climate and his social commentary. So they got to get to his social commentary through this anti-Semitic lens. So they needed to enlist some allies. So now they have the LGBTQ community, and now they have the Jewish and Israeli community as well, which are two communities that are combined as one. So that's first and foremost. The misguidedness of the comments on any of these guys' sides is Jewish. It doesn't matter whether it's Jewish, whether it's who, whether it's the Bloods or the Crips. It's just a group of people that just formed around a certain thing, right? But at the end of the day, is your beef that Jewish people are doing this to black people, or that Jewish people are doing it to anybody, or you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Or what's the common thread amongst all of these so-called, nobody's doing it to anybody because they're Jewish. The faith doesn't teach that. You know what I'm saying? Just like, Islam doesn't teach people to kill each other for each other. No, that's not what it's about. Now, if you want to say it's racist because maybe the Jewish people are white and they're against black people, but that's a different argument, and you got to prove that out. You can't even prove the Jewish argument that they're doing this. I'm not saying they're doing it or not doing it. If you're going to accuse somebody of doing something, have your ducks in a row or keep your mouth shut. I'm not saying you can't believe what you want to believe, but if you're going to make a statement, you gotta have the goods. And people are making statements about other people without having proper documentation in place. You know what I mean? And you leave yourself open to get ripped to shreds when you don't fact check and when you don't, you know what I'm saying? And all of the stuff that comes from that first. So now, that's the first argument. The second argument, but that argument could be made without canceling anybody. You understand what I'm saying? You can just say, well, Kyrie, man, you hitched yourself to the wrong wagon. The fuck you doing? You know what I'm saying? It's just that simple. You can't, you're not, it's not about making him grovel to get back in. You ain't made nobody else grovel. You didn't make Kraft grovel after seeing that hooker at the massage parlor. You understand what the fuck is this? You know what I'm saying? What are you doing? I mean, it's insulting. And it's insulting that anybody would be behind. It is a public flogging. And it's not about Kyrie. It's about, any of you other guys that get the idea that you can do some of this shit, we're going to do this to you. That's what really all of that is about. That's wrong. So it's two wrongs, one little wrong and one large wrong. So they're trying to kill a fly with a sledgehammer, but they're doing it for a reason. There is a purpose behind it. And it seems, and you guys got to understand this. They don't, when you are a black man, you can't address people publicly in a certain manner, whether you are right or wrong, without getting some backlash, without getting them saying, in the very least, you were right, but the way you presented it was X, Y, and Z. So we got to understand what's going on here, and we got to not, look, I'm not saying you had to agree with Kyrie, but this public flogging of him by black folks, we have to stop that. We have to stop that. Period. And they ask us to publicly flog them, and we participate in it. We got to stop that. Go ahead.
Terry, I gotta hear what your point is.
Well, you know, black fear is real, okay? Because black folk don't want to lose them little jobs they got. So no matter how they truly feel about something, you know, if master say, you better not say nothing, you better agree with us, then the sake of my job, I'm going to follow his lead. But one thing Vince said that holds a lot of weight is you have to do the research, right? Right is right, wrong is wrong, right? And did the Holocaust happen? Yes. Did slavery happen? Yes. So what's the difference of us wanting to discuss slavery and have that a part of the history books, and we can attach the moniker never happened again, as our Jewish brothers and sisters saying the same thing about the Holocaust, right? We have to do the research. You know what I mean? I don't think Kyrie did anything wrong intentionally. You know what I mean? I'm insulted and hurt by Shaquille O'Neal. You know why? Him and Barkley wanted to bury Kyrie. Yet nothing said about Bezos, who is the you know, the source of this video and this book, right?
The merchant.
Right, the merchant. Now, but what gets me is Shaq forgot that movie played in his theaters.
In Newark.
That's right. It played in his theaters, you know, and he was there on scene in front of a video camera, standing in front of the poster, talking about whatever he's talking about in his theater. So how can you be part of the problem and then you want to bury your brother? You know what I mean? I don't get that. You know what I'm saying? But
that might be exactly why he came out against him, because he needed to.
Yeah. But you know what?
To him, you got this joint in your theater, so we know how you gonna rock. You know, you gonna come on our side and you gonna come out heavy.
Right.
Because if you don't come out heavy, then we gonna throw you over there with him because you playing it at your theater. How you know that didn't how you know that wasn't a factor? That might not be how it, you know, that might not be directly how it played out, but how you know that wasn't a factor in all of this?
Right.
Well, you're right. You're right.
I think so this is good. I like the dialogue, and I want to try to just make sure that for the listening audience, what I've heard, and even, you know, part of my belief system, we've got to set the narrative straight, because at the end of the day, I'm not riding with anybody. I'm questioning how we are so quick to cancel.
Yes.
When people feel as though they're being maligned. That's number one. Number two, I think that we're saying, or we're calling out, the double standard associated with how this plays out. And then number three, the last point, we're calling out some of the people in our own tribe that co-opt and are complicit with this mess by jumping to, I'll say, the side of canceling without understanding. And those are the three things I think we just have to keep out there, because again, when I saw the Kyrie situation, I was like, well, wait a minute. He's got a list of 6 things to do, but I could still go on Amazon and sell it. So you're not attacking the problem. That's what I saw as an issue, number one. Now with Mr. West, I don't know what's going on with him, you know, and we were talking about it before we went live. Look, I'll start here. Sometimes what I've seen, at least on Fox News, and I watch, believe it or not, I watch Fox, not as much as any other channels, but I have to watch the content so I understand how people are thinking. And I've come to an observation. Whenever African Americans are on Fox, and this is like, I'll say 50 times watching, what I've noticed is that not once, when they have African Americans on Fox, do they ever have a positive or impactful knowledge for Black excellence, improvement or an agenda that propagates addressing our issues to become better as a people. Never. That's not a coincidence. So when I saw Kanye come on Tucker Carlson about maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago, that was my red flag. I said, something's going on. Because if we remember, 20 years ago during Katrina, he was vilified by Fox.
Mm-hmm.
Now, all of a sudden, the embrace. That was just, for me, something that just bared watching. And we saw when he co-opted, I think, a brilliant slogan. Again, I will separate my personal feelings from the materialistic aspect of White Lives Matter. He put that out there because he knew somebody was going to buy it. He was already, unbeknownst to us, making a fundamental shift in how he was going to get his bag. But somewhere along the way, he lost his way because people got to him, Candace Owens, Nick Fuentes, the Fox machine, Elon Musk, and all these other folks that made him believe his hype. Now, none of us were born on a hay truck, but we know that you can't say certain things. And when he said that he could say what he wanted and there was nothing he could do, as Chappelle made it bluntly, they got rid of him quickly.
That's right.
So that's what we call
it to Donald Trump's rhetoric.
Say the wake-up call. So now he's kind of stuck. And, I think, I actually feel sorry for him because I think that with all of the potential, and it happens at every economic level, every level of intelligence, when you get co-opted by the oppressor, bad things happen. He doesn't know where he stands, because I've heard him talking about being a Christian. I've heard him talking about this, that, and the other. If he was truly a Christian, he wouldn't be saying anti-Semitic things. So therein is where we can start. I don't want to do an autopsy on Kanye West. I just think that, at some point, I just hope that he gets that self-awareness to see that I think he's getting played on both sides of the equation. I think he went mainstream, but now he's just shooting them in the foot. And if you listen to what he's saying, and it's like we say, a broken clock can be right twice. But if you're always wrong and you're going against the people that actually can, I'll say, influence your career, that's just bad business. Thoughts, Vince?
I have no thoughts on Kanye. I don't know what he thinks about. I don't know what's in his head. I can't even begin to, it's hard enough trying to figure out what Kyrie was doing. Kanye, that guy is a mystery to me. I'll just put it to you like this. I have a hard time believing that somebody that is careful about his lyrics as he is not know what the hell he's saying. You understand what I'm saying? This guy writes songs for a living. He writes rap lyrics. You couldn't be more deliberate than a rapper. You understand what I'm saying? This guy, I'm not telling you what he's trying to do with what he's saying. He knows that what he's saying is going to elicit a response. He knows that. There is no way he does it because that's who he is. That's what he does. That's what you know what I'm saying? That's like saying an actor is not going to be an actor. You know what I'm saying? No, he's a rapper. He's rapping all the time. And he's always looking to capitalize on what he's doing. And he has said as much. And we continually ignored this guy for saying, no, I'm just trying to get paid, man. You know what I'm saying? I just trying to get that bag. And, and then we fault people for getting that bag. When they say that's what they're doing, they getting that bag. And we still spend our money with them. We still do this with them. We still do that with them. Kanye is honest. He ain't no different than Trump. He ain't no different than Giuliani. He said, this is what I'm going to do. And then they went about doing it. And then we mad because they did what they said they were going to do. Meanwhile, there's people that say they were going to do the things that we want them to do that don't do it. And we let them off the hook. I think that's stupid. No, I'm leaving Kanye alone. Let him be as crazy as he want to be. He wouldn't be the first crazy person or whatever. I don't mean literally clinically crazy. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about this social craziness he has. Let him just be socially as crazy as he want to be. These people can chase him around. He's gonna make all his money back because he knows they jump every time he say something. You know what I'm saying? It's going to be a matter of time. Kanye going to be back in power. I can't worry about Kanye. He don't. Who's it? Kanye, Kyrie. Who the other one? Oh, Chappelle. And once again, Chappelle knows what he's saying. They don't want him saying it. Chappelle. It ain't got nothing to do with him being anti-Semitic. It got something to do with the power that man has.
Those followers that he has.
Too much power for him to have. So they got to find a way to shut down some of it.
Right.
So how are you gonna do it? That man got a lot of damn power.
Well, I like what you said, because when he did the closer, he got brushed back hard, and the two parties came as one. You get what I'm saying? Because I looked at it. I mean, and and again, it comes down. I'm glad you brought that up, and I'm gonna let Terry get the last word. But what's interesting was that you got to put Barkley in this Shaq thing, because with the LBGT, I happen to hear Barkley say, "Oh, black folks are the worst." I gotta respectfully challenge that. We've been allies of people that had alternative lifestyles for all we know. Everybody had a cousin, or hell, maybe even a brother or sister we knew might have been or had an alternate lifestyle, and we just accepted it as is. As a DJ, I've been in clubs, and it was what it was. You know what I'm saying? If I had any type of homophobic thoughts, I wouldn't have worked. You know what I mean? So I've got to challenge that one. And again, it goes back to, and I think you were making it in your own way, it's how people are being co-opted to propagate an agenda. We've got to respectfully challenge it. So I will leave it to the owner, co-founder of Gynesis, to have the last word, and we can wrap it up.
Well, all I'm going to say in regards to Kanye is he has a right to say what he want to say. Doesn't mean it's right. Doesn't mean it's wrong. But the United States said we have freedom of speech, right? First Amendment, right? So let him stand on that. Doesn't mean he's right. Doesn't mean he's wrong. But we don't have a heaven or a hell to put him or anybody else in. All right. So with that being said, the chips gonna fall where they may, because what was his name? Mel Gibson, was it the actor?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Pack of wolves.
Hey, he came out and spoke from his heart, and guess what? They canceled him. But the difference is with both of these guys is, including Chappelle and Kyrie, right? They can change their lifestyle and don't need anybody in society to care what they do or say. They have that FU money. Even with Adios suing him and trying to tie his money up, he still got sources of revenue that he, in a lifetime, he can't spend it unless somebody take it from him.
Right.
And because of that, these guys going to say what they want to say anyway. You know what I mean? Doesn't make them right. Doesn't make them wrong. They're entitled to their own opinion. I do think Kanye has had some type of mental break, mental shift, but I don't know. I'm not a doctor. So I'm going to leave it there.
Well, guys, it was a great hour. It went by fast. And I hope that the audience accepted and got some jewels through the conversation. And thank you, Vince, for, gracing us with your presence. TP, you always there. You're the infrastructure of this whole platform. So thank you for having us.
You're welcome.
And until we meet again, this is the Brothership. You guys be good.
All righty, y'all. Take care.
All right.